What is up, everybody? Welcome to the Ham Radio Crash Course. Welcome to Saturday. Got a big show. We're going to be revisiting the Tactical Trashcan. That's right. I don't remember when I made the first video. It was over a year ago now. Taking a 6-gallon galvanized steel trash can and making it EMP resistant, I would call it. I guess you could, up to a certain point, you can't say really it's EMP proof, but it's not bad. And we tested it live when I first built it. So the videos are linked in the description. You can check that out after today's stream. But we're going to talk about the new loadout because things have changed. And that's the topic of the show. Enjoy the memes as I kick things off here. And thanks for clicking on the Ham Radio Crash Course. All right. How's it going, everybody? I am Josh, KI6NAZ. I've got my Dayton HRCC original ham shirt on. It just came today and Leia threw it through the door before they took off this afternoon. Hey, thanks, everybody, for coming out to the Ham Radio Crash Course. We're going to have some fun today talking about radio gear. And actually, it's going to be a little bit into the weeds a bit on some of this because we're going to be talking about a potential emergency preparedness, really just focused on emergency preparedness in a self-sustaining kit. I know we're gussying it up with the concept of it being an EMP trash can or EMP resistant trash can, but that's really what the core of all this is. So make sure you're thinking about some of that stuff as we go through it. I do have a special announcement that I wanted to play right up front while everybody's here watching. So I'm going to go ahead and flip this over here and play.
What does he want? Uncle Frank. It's about the YouTubers Hamfest coming up in May.
Welcome to the weird part of the internet.
Now that all the conventions have opened back up, we're not doing a YouTubers Hamfest.
Nah, that means we're gonna be hamming harder this year.
This is NJ7V, hamming harder.
NJ7V, this is KF7RYX. You are on the local repeater. This is not hamming harder.
W7NRS, NJ7V, hamming harder.
NJ7V, this is W7NRS. I'm standing right next to you. This is not hamming harder.
Hey, antenna boy, turn your antenna towards Connecticut so you can hear me.
You gotta ham harder, Don. Ham harder, ham harder.
Announcing the 3rd annual YouTubers Hamfest for 2022, chasing the Gray Line.
No, not chasing buses. Gray Line. Hayden,
Very nicely done.
got you in the logs finally, brother. Thanks.
Hayden, why aren't you in my logs yet? I know you're there.
I don't know why you're not in my log. Are you not hamming hard enough?
Hayden is in my logbook.
Mine too.
Or was it that guy from New Zealand? One of those guys.
Hayden actually is in my log because I'm good at my job. My amateur job.
Please join us on Friday, May 27th through to Sunday the 29th as we go through your favorite.
Please join us Friday, May 27th through Sunday, May 29th.
To take a look at some of your favorite radios, antennas,
Cables?
Did someone... You hear that? That's the sound of cheap coax. Don't buy cheap coax.
and let's not forget about all of your favorite ham radio gadgets. Did somebody say solar panels?
Somebody say wire strippers?
Did someone say OP1 and Flipper 0?
That's not a QRP radio.
Don't forget to get your transmitters ready for an FT8 off.
That's a QRP radio.
Along with interviews from ICOM, Yaesu, ARRL, and me interviewing the Parks on the Air officials to learn more information about the program.
And finally, we'll be highlighting the most interesting videos and people from ham radio.
That's right, we found the smoking ape's real name. It's Clarence.
You know, I was gonna read this, but everyone else's is so funny.
What the heck?
Don't forget to bring your favorite snacks and beverages for the Friday night happy hour. I'll be bringing my favorite drink, Malort.
Mine's tea.
I'll bring my favorite drink, which is water, and the tears of my enemies.
I'm bringing my favorite IPA.
And I'll bring the cigars. And don't worry, unlike the FCC, we're fee-free.
So please come by and see me.
And me.
And me?
And me.
And me.
And all of us.
On Memorial Weekend for the 3rd annual YouTubers Hamfest of 2022.
We are chasing the gray line for the 3rd annual YouTubers Hamfest for 2022.
Come get some.
Very nicely done, Jason. There's the website, so we will be live the weekend after Hamvention. Just want a big shout out to Frank for putting together the little script there. A lot of ad-libbing went into that, so you could have probably tell. And Jason, Ham Radio 2.0 edited it all together. So nicely done, both of you guys and all the people involved. It's going to be a lot of fun. It's larger than ever, so make sure you check us out the weekend after Hamvention. Okay. So, what are we talking about today? Well, I've already hinted at it, but what we're talking about is my good old trash can, my tactical trash can. There it is. There it is, right there, right there. That 6-gallon boy. We'll pull up that shot in a little bit as we keep going here, but I built this just for fun. I was at a Lowe's one day a couple of years ago and decided, hey, this is a cool size, something you can easily carry into the field, potentially. What could you do with it? Why would you do this? And then I started looking up and kind of determined after spending some time with it that it's pretty close to being a relatively decent Faraday cage. So I went ahead and lined the inside with some cardboard and used adhesive to stick it to the walls, and then used metallic packing material between that to create another level of protection, if you will. The big thing, though, was I picked up some adhesive metallic foam seal strips, and that goes along the inside of the trash can lid, and it helps electrically seal the actual lid to the body of the trash can. That's probably the biggest thing you can do. That's the most important step. I am not affiliated with the link in the description, but those are the ones I bought, and they seem to work really well. Case says, Dear human friend, I was wondering after an event like an EMP, what comm method is easiest to pinpoint the source of, and what method would you employ to generalize your location for safety? I don't know that I understand the question. I appreciate the super chat. Thank you so much for doing that, but I don't understand what the generalize your location. If you're transmitting at all, you are going to potentially be seen by, whomever, right? What comm method is easiest to pinpoint the source of, and what method would you employ to generalize your location for safety? Well, you can. If you're transmitting, you're putting out your location, right? Regardless of the people being able to understand what it is you're talking about or not, even if you were encrypted, your signal is going out there in the form of RF, and anybody can see that signal generally against their radio, and they'd be able to find you with that. So you kind of can't. Anyway, wanted to hit a couple of things before I show you what's in the current loadout, but here's just an overview of what's going on. The updated EMP Trashcan. Big thanks to the Patreon supporters as well. This is what they voted for. So that's not it. There we go. Come on now. Oh, I'm using, that's why. Come on. There we go. All right. So build a Faraday cage. I was aiming for 50 dBs of attenuation, 50 dB attenuation, and I'll show you where that comes from in a second. 80 plus dB is the requirement for level 2 hardness from different certification levels within the United States government. I was aiming for 50. You'll see a reason for that in a second. The container should be easily portable by one person. I wanted to carry it, if I needed to, on my own, maybe with a backpack of other things, but primarily be man-portable. I wanted it self-sustaining, meaning that it would be powerable on its own, it would have its own supply for power, and all the devices in it would have its own power supply and have them be able to be recharged off of that power supply. So that was kind of the idea there. So my build was a 6-gallon galvanized trash can. I used the 3M adhesive spray on the interior surfaces and cut strips of cardboard to fit inside. And then once they were all kind of applied and I let it dry, I kind of cleaned up the top edge. And then I applied metallic packing material with a little bubble pack, if you will, with the metallic backing up against the inside of the can again to have a little separation layer, if you will, another layer of electrical separation. I tested this with about 65 dBs of attenuation, and the link is in the description, so you can go see the testing procedure, but that was literally taking that tiny SA, which, again, not lab test, I appreciate not lab test, threw the tiny SA on the fundamental frequency in the trash can, sealed it up really tight, or as it should be sealed, and then hit it with RF. And we did multiple bands of testing, multiple different power levels, and every time we, pulled the SA out and looked at its key markers, it had 60 plus dB of attenuation. We also threw the phone in there for good measure and tried to call it, and none of the calls went through, so good. Could not receive fundamental cell phone. Yep, and this is not a lab grade test. This is Josh in a ham shack having fun doing a live stream with you guys. That's where we tested it. All right, so level 3 of the government standard, and I believe that is also linked in the description, is kind of what I was aiming for, which was 30 plus dB of protection. I felt that I would easily be able to attain 30 dB of isolation, so I bumped that up to 50. It was a personal goal of mine. I assumed I probably wouldn't get to 80, and I was right. I didn't. You may be able to make that happen on the trash can with a little bit of work, but not there yet. And the other box there have 30 days of EMP protected power and fuel, 30 days of food, water, and critical supplies and spares. I already have that, so I considered, that's good enough for me. The rest of the stuff is mainly on bringing the system back up if you have lost something, right? If EMP has happened, you've lost something, and you bring everything back online. That's what the other bullets generally relate to. All right. So this is again, because a lot of people got really confused on the video, this isn't a go kit that contains your food and water and first aid and all that stuff. This is just for electronics, guys. You still need to have your own food and you still need to have, water and all that stuff. In fact, it would be a waste to put all that in there and potentially unsafe. Why would you want to put your water supply in a trash can that was full of electronics and kind of like internally sealed? That doesn't make much sense. So the purpose of this is, again, electronics. Any electronics that you potentially might want to have if there was some kind of a disaster in which the grid went down or something, electronics were getting fried for some reason. That's what this is. This is an extra level of protection, I'd say well above what most consumer grade stuff is. Those EMP bags, we tested those live on the stream. I threw an AM radio into it, and it received the flamethrower that's down the street about 6 miles from me, the 50,000 kilowatt transmitter. Wait, 50 kilowatt. Yeah, 50 kilowatt transmitter. Down the street, AM 640, right? KR, anyway, doesn't matter. No, 5... Doesn't matter. Anyway, I have a big AM station next to me, and we still pick that station up inside most EMP bags, so I don't consider them at all. By the way, while we're looking at this, I got a lot of comments that said, well, if it's not grounded, it's not going to work. No, false. Not true at all. We tested with the tiny SA, hit it with the fundamental frequency of radio, of whatever radio I was using. I was using a Yagi for the test, and it did not show any better attenuation by it being grounded. As long as you had a good, fully electric cocoon, a fully electrically sealed cocoon that your electronics were in, no difference there. So, no, it does not need to be grounded. At some point it might. If we want to get to that 80 dB isolation, we may need to go grounded, but anyway. So why reopen this thing? Why am I doing all this stuff again? Well, we're making a new loadout primarily because of something we learned from Mike Glover when we had him out on the show 2021, early 2021, right? About that time. And he introduced us to a Special Forces term called PACE, and it is their comms plan system: primary, alternate, contingent, or contingency, and emergency. Oh, good. Did I spell that? I totally spelled emergency wrong. Let's go forward. Why didn't it tell me anything? Basically, 4 steps of independent comms capabilities, right? So if you're not just going to say, I'm going to use one radio on Simplex, and then I'm going to use that same radio on DMR, and then I'm going to plug a packet system into it and do APRS. No, that's one radio, right? So we need 4 systems, right, for fully pace redundancy, right? That's the idea. So future considerations on this, by the way, I only have a couple slides, and then we're going to go dive into what we're talking about here. Further considerations. If the grid is damaged and communications is down, relative noise floor will be eventually quite low. Eventually, right, if there is truly a high altitude EMP, something that happens, like an atomic weapon is detonated in high altitude, there will be a certain level of chaos in our atmosphere, and HF will likely not be very effective or usable at all. There may potentially be some issue to VHF and UHF, but at the same time, we're pretty confident that HF will be taken out to some degree. Scoring Suite DX will likely not be a primary priority. In fact, I assume that in most cases, the HF of interest will be NVIS. The NVIS is probably going to be your primary function, although there are capabilities with this toolkit to run vertical antennas, horizontal antennas, etc. And we'll talk about that here shortly. 100 watts is great, but I don't view 100 watts as being of primary interest when it is longevity of runtime that we're looking for. I want the radio that has a good balance between power output and power consumption. So it is very likely that a QRP radio could work just fine in this case, depending on what it is you want to do and who it is you want to talk to. In fact, the radio that I have gone with might be complete overkill for what we actually need. All right, so a couple of notes from replying to the first round of video that I did. Yes, of course, you still need food, water, and first aid and somewhere to avoid fallout. Yes, if that is the proximity that you are in with regards to the disaster that you may be facing. Yes, at a certain range, it doesn't matter how good your trash can is because you'll be dead. Correct, but one of the hypothetical thoughts is that this was a HEMP or a high altitude electromagnetic pulse blast that we'd be dealing with. So that's kind of what the idea of that was. And lastly, yes, I do leave the G90 and most of the gear in the can. So the radios that exist in the can, they actually live there. Some of the gear comes out for reasons that I'll probably explain in a little bit. But generally, yeah, this kit is been put together for a couple of years now. That G90 that I put in there initially is still in there, and there's good reasons for why that is. So that is just some answers that I wanted to give before we dive into this. So, all right, let's see what is in the new loadout. All right, so we're still using a Barron's metalware out of Minnesota 6-gallon trash can. This is a galvanized trash can. And I'm going to slide right over here, and we're gonna take a little look at it. Okay. I want to point out right here on top, this is a piece of like strapping that you could use for a water heater. Same thing as we had before. This is actually, if we turn this a little bit, this is a quarter 20 mount for like a ham stick, or in my case, there is a screwdriver antenna that you can put in there, and that works just fine. So this is a nice little steady mount, particularly if you have some weight in here, which you probably will. You won't necessarily just drag everything out, dump it all on the floor, and go, okay, it's time to set up comms. Probably not. You're only going to grab like an HT or maybe a shortwave radio out of here. And you've got multiple mount points for radials. You can mount directly to the strap, the can, whatever you want to do, and it'll count. So that's there. And when I did the test, I actually had a screwdriver mount directly on this. Okay, so the lid handle, the handle lid, it's actually forces onto the trash can, makes really good positive connection holding the lid down. And when you take it off, so you can see likely there is... This is a metallic mesh seal that goes all the way around, and when you shove this onto the body of the trash can, this is what provides your electrical cocoon seal. That's what seals everything up completely for when you actually get some kind of EMP. Having the can completely sealed to the body is what you're looking for. And yeah, I did do some brazing and braze the ends there, so that seals those up as well. Rivet holes have been covered to a degree. Interior rivet holes, there were some on the handle here that I was not so worried about. I do want to go back. I saw somebody had a comment that I want to... Somebody mentioned a microwave, and you really need to go email. You need to Google that. Where was that comment? You don't want to use a microwave. Microwaves are for protecting against microwaves. They're not for a wide-banded pulse blast like you would expect to see on an EMP. So, hey, somebody's one. Forget your life. What's up, man? Yeah, it's Jagger, right? Watching on my Nintendo Switch, posting on the iPhone. That's funny. Very good. Yeah, just use microwave. That Joe Blow set out for trash can down the street and cut off the power cord. I mean, it's better than nothing. So I'll give you that. It's better than nothing. But no, this is not what we're looking at here. Is actually some proper attenuation. So keep that in mind. Yeah, you don't want to use a microwave. Everybody was thinking microwave. Don't go microwave. So let me go back here and we'll change to the overhead in a second because I wanted to just get some kind of thought so you guys to get an idea of how much space this all takes up. So I have stuff packed up to the top here. You can see a bit of coax, and honestly, you could go without the coax and replace it with something else if you wanted to do that. There's reasons why. There's a lot of modularity here that we're going to be talking about, and we're actually going to talk about some of this stuff before we dive into the trash can as it sits now. But I wanted to show you the outside first before we went into it completely. So here's what I want to talk about. All right. So there's a number of items here on the table that I think we need to hit, and before we go completely into the Game Boy you should not put into the trash can. The first thing I want to do is I want to talk about computing, and I got all wrapped up in my head about computing when I was thinking more about this. I really have been loving the Surface Go. This is the Microsoft Surface Go. It's the cheapest one they make, and it's got the Kensington case on it or whatever, and the Orange keyboard case. Nice little unit. The problem, and this is where the failure point is for me. The problem is its only interface is this USB-C port. That's the only thing it has. So if you're looking for something that's going to run and you're going to keep it charged and running off of backup batteries and do some kind of maybe asynchronous data, right? So if you wanted to run JSA call after an event of this magnitude, you wanted to run JSA call or you wanted to run WinLink or something like that, having this die on you, particularly in the middle of the night, and your batteries be dead, is not what you want, right? That's not going to work very well for you. So that's kind of my problem with the Surface. So that's why the Surface is not making an appearance here. Now, what I fully support is going to the Raspberry Pi Zero, the W version, and this is running the Build-A-Pi script. These guys are great because of the digital interface I'm using. We can go in with the USB micro here, and we can power off of the USB-C of our charge solution that we're going to talk about. But wanted to show that up front because I didn't want to forget. Yes, there is computing capability here, and there are things that are loaded on this and all the computers that we'll talk about as we dive in a little bit more. But yeah, so didn't want to forget that and mention that up front. Burner phone, a banana phone, literally a banana phone. It might be a good idea to have one of these that you can just pop your SIM card out and throw it into a burner phone if comms were ever to be reestablished. This is the Nokia banana phone, I guess. It was supposed to be the upgraded version of the Matrix phone. I just like spinning it more than anything. It's kind of funny because this is a round can. It can kind of just slide on the edge there without much problem. So that's part of the reason I put it in there. In fact, let me show you. So if you see the like a little moon shape, if you just take it, you just take it and slide it. It's the same curve as the can, so it just sits right in there. So you can throw that on top if you want to, if you had extra space. Not a whole lot of reason not to. Yeah, the you should build the whole can should just be built out of the Nokias. In fact, how would this look? Should we do this? Should we just build it with layered Nokia phones? That would be the most EMP protection that you could achieve. Yeah, not wrong. All right, shortwave radios, absolutely. This is a horrible shortwave radio, but it's got a recorder built into it. How useful is that? That's super, super handy. So link is in the description. This is the TIV Dio has been superseded by another model, which is available on Amazon too. They're cheap. They're like $20, and they have an SD card that you can record off of, which is nice. Anyway, I reviewed the GP7 recently. This would probably be my one that I would go to. This one has the rechargeable built in, and I have a recharge capability that we'll talk about. But yeah, just keep in mind, shortwave radio is probably going to be very important. My initial goal was to put my Belka DX, my tiny little spy receiver that I did a video on. I, for the life of me, can't find it. It's so small, I lost the thing completely. So I'm kind of frustrated by that. Anyway, let's pull the can over here and get it at least halfway in the shot so you can see a little bit about what we're going to pull out. Oh, don't kill my Game Boy. All right, so I mentioned the coax. This is more here just to remind me to talk about the lid, which I've done. If you want to run a ham stick on this, you can, but, we got done saying that near vertical incident skywave, where your RF comes straight up and comes back down, giving you about, 400 to maybe 600 mile coverage. That's kind of what you want. You want to use NVIS, at least initially, if we were in a disaster type situation. So you may not need to use the vertical on this. You'll use another antenna, which is in the kit. I have a shirt, but really it could be anything. It could be like a tablecloth or whatever, or some kind of material that you can use to lay on a table. It gives you a good buffer on the top of the can. So some of the stuff you've already seen before, so I'm going to get that stuff out of the way first. You have already seen the GPD Pocket 2, and some of you may be saying, why again with the GP Pocket 2? Well, the GP Pocket 2 has a USB-C charging port, a USB-A 3.0 port, and a USB-A 3.0 port, and an SD card reader. As far as computers go, it's like the smallest computer that has okay input-output ports that would allow it to charge and connect to a radio at the same time. With that said, I'll be really, really clear that if you were going to do digital at night, say you're going to go to sleep, I would rather just run the Raspberry Pi. I would rather plug this into your battery bank, plug that into your radio, and let this run, because this thing is absolutely just so lightweight on power. And it's not fast. It's not fast, but it's way, way cheaper from a power impact than running a laptop. So Pi Zero, the W version, whatever the fastest W version that came out, low power, higher speed, that's what you want, if that's from my point of view. So FYI. Okay, what's old, what's new? Antenna, the antenna bag. This is a County Com Cuban fiber. Yeah, there it is. Miguel Pi Zero W2. You want the 2 version. This is the W2. Okay. I did add the heat sinks to that, although you're probably not going to use that. I do not have this overclocked, FYI. My system has a USB-C charging cable, and also USB micro, but the radio connection is USB-C now. So that's why I've got this little jumper to go from C to micro, and that's why it's attached there. Okay, antenna. I'm looking for questions too. If you do @Ham Radio Crash Course or type I have a question or question, I'll see it as a special pop-up, and then I'll post it up on the screen so I can answer it live. So make sure you take advantage of that. All right, so the antenna that I'm planning on going with the HF radio that I have selected, which some of you probably already know what it is. This is a special antenna that K6ARK built for me, actually. It's specifically designed to handle the 20 watts of the soon-to-be-mentioned HF radio that still lives in this kit with good reason, I feel. It is BNC capable, though, so you could connect this to any QRP, and it is his 9-to-1 option, which means that you will need to leverage a tuner, and it just so happens that the radio in question, no spoiler alerts, has that capability. So that's the antenna that I'm going to use. It's small, it's lightweight. It can be easily aligned in a vertical, a sloper, or horizontally off the ground, like for an NVIS solution. This is a fun thing. I bought this at CountyCom a couple of years ago, and it is this Kevlar line, and it's got this cool. It's basically a fishing line holder, but if you flip open the little lid here, there's the open leads for the line, and it's literally a reel of Kevlar line. You could use this for lots of purposes. I figured that you may need this for a permanent setup or semi-permanent to hoist an antenna. It would make a good candidate for a sheet bend on the relatively small wire that Adam has used on his antenna here. There may be a kit on this in the future. Don't know yet from Adam, but it sure is cool, and it's nice that it can handle the 20 watts output, and it even has a little extra piece of coax in there. Power plug, the power plug option that I've gone with has a fuse, so I did pack extra fuses. Very important. Hey, Chris, thank you so much for the super chat. Appreciate that. Bobby Disher has a question. Could you do a design similar to this with a larger trash can? Yeah, absolutely. The larger trash can would give you greater capability to bring gear out with you, but you're no longer likely going to be man-portable because gear is heavy. Ham radio gear, batteries, computing capabilities, very, very heavy. This is already pushing 30 pounds-ish, I'm guessing, and that starts to be a little bit of a drag to pull around because trash cans are not convenient to carry, guys. I have a question. Sounds like you have done some modifications to the equipment you are storing in the EMP can. Yes or no? And if so, are there easy mods that anyone can do? There's no mods to the equipment. The equipment needs no mods. It just needs to go into a storage solution that will keep them safe. By the way, guys, if you have questions and I don't answer them, feel free to join us in the Discord after chat. Link is in the description. We'll be having a live after chat. We go for hours just answering ham radio questions. We'll talk about this a bit, but we'll move on to other things too. So appreciate all your questions there so far. Thanks for sending them. All right. So power plug is the standard plug for the G90 to a power pole, and there's a fuse connector on the positive lead, just FYI. Extra fuses were brought because you don't want to lose your fuses. This is the G90 microphone mic. No big deal. And the big thing, which we're going to talk about right now, the Digi Rig is kind of one of the secret sauce items in this that allows me to get some double use case capability. The Digi Rig is a USB-C interface to a computer, and it has both the audio and the serial connections to whichever radio you're using. In this case, yes, the G90. The G90. But the configuration of this box also allows it to connect to handhelds. So you could have a handheld connection to connect your computer for, say, packet radio or APRS if you wanted to do that. Not everybody wants to do that, but you could do that. And they have a couple of different options if you look up Digi Rig. I think there's a link in the description to Gigaparts, and they have the Digi Rigs for both the Baofangs or Kenwood style connectors and G90 and some of the other radios. They also have one for the Elecraft KX2, KX3, etc. So new to the kit is a Edfong J-pole. This is my original one that I bought, I think, 2 years ago. This is the one that you saw in the recent video. Yes, it is an Edfong J-pole. I was not thrilled with the performance against the MFJ Long Ranger, though, so I didn't really want to tell anybody about it until I got another copy of it. And yes, I bought one off of Jason Ham Radio 2.0's website so that I could have an unbiased Edfong to compare to my Edfong. I wanted to make sure that I was speaking very openly and honestly about it. I think that the MFJ Long Ranger was like a dB higher on transmit than the roll-up J-pole, which I was a little bummed about. Advantage to roll-up J-pole, though, it includes 70 centimeters, which the MFJ Long Ranger doesn't. But anyway, still a good antenna, I feel, from my point of view. It has, because it's a J-pole, you don't have to worry about a grounding solution, because the ground, or the radial is literally the small vertical piece, and this connects to a G90, not a G90, a 705 if you wanted to do that, and any of your handhelds. So there's that. So they go into this Cuban fiber, what they call Cuban fiber at CountyCom, although it's more like a nylon bag more than anything. I bought a bunch of them, thinking that they were what would be classified as traditional Cuban fiber. They are not. Question about how high should the NVIS wire be above ground? I would go, there's actually a number. I think you need to be less than 1/4 wavelength above ground to send most of your RF towards the vertical angle into the atmosphere. But if you go lower than that, it's going to be more effective. I know some folks that just run it at 4 feet above the ground. So it's going to be, that's what you're looking for. 0.15 lambda. There you go. Thanks, Chris. Yeah, and just so everybody knows, we're talking about 40 meters, 80 meters. Those are going to be your bands that you're going to want to work on NVIS. All right, something else. Yes. All right, I added some tools, and these are in addition to my dumb tools. Tools that need power, right? Tools that need power is what we're going to go for here. So I've included my cheap Harbor Freight multimeter. Got to have that. They live in a bag together. I have included a USB-C powerable from a power bank soldering iron and a roll of solder. Again, this is not electronics, but I figured I can't make a soldering iron work without solder, but I can make it work without, say, my Brillo pad cleaner. So I left it. Don't worry about it. Leave that out of the kit. You can add it later. Something I added that is important, I think, that we didn't consider, we should have considered it last time, was, yes, this is a communications kit, but realistically, there's some medical issues that are going to come up. So that's what this is. This is actually a pulse oximeter. I decided to pick this up and off of Amazon. Kind of cool. Can you see that? Yeah, you can see it. Oh, my heart rate is climbing. I'm so excited being live right now. Anyway, I think that's an incredibly important tool for those of us that are not medical professionals. I do have some basic first aid skills, and having a pulse oximeter is nice. If it was an EMP, I'd be worried that we might not have that technology, so it got a space in the trash can. Okay. And it does go in a little M&N bag. Soldering iron goes in first, then the solder, pulse oximeter, and the multimeter. Oh well, I'll zip that up later. No time to stop. Question. Do you keep batteries in your multimeter? Any concerns about battery failure? Yeah, I've had the batteries inside that multimeter for years, and I've never had a failure. And worst case scenario, you would just get some of those coins, those little battery coins, and swap them out. So I'm not too worried about that. Speaking of battery, this is the battery that is in the kit. This is a 12-volt, 9-amp-hour Bio-NO battery. It's nice because you can arrange it vertically if you want to go kind of up from the bottom. It'll lean against the wall a little bit, or you could do it flat, or you could lie it down. There's lots of different configurations kind of for this battery. This is most reminiscent to me of a Power Wheel battery, so that's the one that's in the kit. Yeah, don't expect a lot of medical components, because if it doesn't have batteries, if it's not something that could blow up during an EP, I didn't pack it. And thank you for the super chat. I really do appreciate it. And let's make sure I didn't miss another one. Yes, I did, from RC. Sorry, RC. Thank you for the super chat. I appreciate the support. There's definitely some stuff in here you guys haven't seen before, so I'm working up to that. All right, radio that I've decided is likely going to live here, but not always, because I'm going to test a lot of HT antennas in the future, and this antenna has a prime role here. This is my Kenwood THF6. It has a Kenwood style connector, not to be confused with the Baofeng connector, because the Baofengs copied this. This is an incredibly simple radio, and is part of one of the things I'll show you in a little bit. BNC connector's been added, extended battery. There is Velcro for the TNC, the Mobi-linked TNC, which you could include in this kit, but not necessarily required, because again, I'm less worried about line of sight data and more curious about how HF would go. But anyway, I'll put that here for now because I got to show you that in a second. Question: how often do you open up the can and recharge the Bioenno? Not often, because it's solar. The system is a solar system. In fact, why don't I just pull the solar panel out now? All right, the panel is a Bioenno. I believe this is the 25. I could be wrong. Could be the 40. Anyway, it's a 4-panel Bioenno solar panel. It charges the battery just fine, and the G90 runs off of it without much issue, assuming you're not just trying to bleed it dry of power. One of the reasons, though, I'm going with this one is it's got the mesh pack or mesh pocket in the back, and inside there I have the Buddy Pull Power Mini. This is not the Power Mini 2, which technically I need to upgrade for something I'll talk about when we get to powering all this stuff, because that is kind of important. I'll pull out the lead too, because this is a power lead for the battery. Okay, so go into the battery. There you go, Power Mini. Question: I know it would cost more, but would a lithium-ion battery work with this setup? This is a lithium-ion battery. It's a lithium iron phosphate battery. LiPo. Oh, sorry. LiFePo. All right, so I'll put that on the side here. We'll leave that powered on. Oh, sorry. Question: are the old school needle meters still available without batteries? I don't know. I haven't used them in a very long time, so I'm the wrong person to ask. All right, so here is kind of some of the major comms layers before we get to HF, because I don't know. For me personally, I don't know that we would necessarily go HF immediately right out of the gate. This is an older battery bank that I've had for a while. It still holds a charge really well, but the advantage of this guy is it will charge the laptop, and it will also run my soldering iron. So that is the purpose of this, and this will charge off of the Buddy Pull Power Mini. If you have the Buddy Pull Power Mini 2, it would charge faster because the Power Mini 2 has a higher power output. So we'll leave that here for a second. Oh, just lost power to my battery. Pull that out. 2 fangs is better than 1 fang. Right? 2 fangs. Okay. Honestly, it's not 2 fangs. These are really just representative of whatever radios you'd want to bring. This is actually a UV5X, which is a GMRS radio, and this is a GT5R, which is a standard Baofeng, basically. They have BNC connectors on the standard GT5R. They are very important. They have the extendo batteries, because the extendo batteries have the DC connection here, so that you can charge this, again, off of the Power Mini. Right, rechargeable in the field, which is the goal. I'll demonstrate that in a second. And here's your signal stick, goes on top. What else is next? Okay. Goal 0, Guide 10 Plus. These are battery chargers. AA batteries are likely going to be usable and important, so that is why they're there. There's a couple of potential swap out radios or FRS radios that I may throw into the top here at any time that would work fine. Question: which connectors you use to connect to LiFePo? There's our automotive spade connectors. To a power pole. That is it. Here is a very inexpensive Anker 4 USB-A port hub that will transfer power. And that is how I split this. There's a USB port. That is how I can charge multiple things. You can't charge everything off of this at one time, but you can charge a couple of things. You can charge one of the radios and the Goal Zero. You can top off the battery in the laptop while running a Raspberry Pi. You'll have to find out which one works best for you, but yes, that does run off of there, so that's why that's like that. I'll show you what that looks like too. This is the charging cable for that guy. A couple of fuses for the power. There was another question. Well, I just answered it. How do I connect the USB on your solar panel to your Power Mini? It's got a USB port. And with the help of that hub, we're good to go. That is the charging cable, USB micro. This is the USB cable for the Baofeng Extendo battery. Oh, what is this? What is this? Another cable. Okay, the last item in here is a little controversial, and you'll have to decide on your own if this is of value to you. All right, here we go. This is an Argent Data Systems Simplex Repeater and voice device. I have this currently not running as a Simplex Repeater. This is running as a voice mailbox system. So you connect this to any radio that has a Kenwood connector. It can run off of DC. It'll take in 4 to 28 volts DC, or it runs off of AA's. You can see it's connected there. Take any old Kenwood style connector and go into that guy there. And now it will pass audio from the radio into this unit. If you have this set up correctly, this can do a couple of things that's kind of interesting. If you watched my most recent video on testing HT antennas, you noticed how I transmitted from my home to the park while I was in the park. And I did that with this exact setup. I used this unit to receive DTMF tones and fire a pre-recorded a pre-recorded message that I had put on this unit through this radio to be received by the radio running the antenna in question, the antenna that I was testing. That's fine. That's like an announcement system that you can set up on a timer. You can set up to replay whenever you want. Really cool little unit. But it also runs a portable mailbox system on this same thing. So you can set this up and receive messages on whatever the given frequency is that you're transmitting on. Send and receive messages, hypothetically. And I paid to upgrade this. This is the ADS SR1 made by Argent. This runs for $80 for the Simplex Repeater, and you can upgrade it for an additional $15, which gets you up to 1,700 minutes of recording time, which is pretty fantastic from my point of view. So that was, I think this is a nice little pickup. I like APRS. If you had to ask me, would I rather have APRS or would I rather have this? I think I might go with this, because this could connect people if you had a repeater down. If you had no repeater capability and you were trying to give coverage to a couple people that are pretty far apart, you could put this halfway between you or get this up on a tower or a hill, and you'd be a lot better off. So that's why I went with that. That was my thinking. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Please post them in the comments or post them live, and I'll take them, and I'll talk about them, and we'll work it out. All right. I've got a Simplex. Oh, James Hannibal says, I've got a Simplex Repeater. It's got a ton of features, including remote control, voicemail, and replay last transmission. I think we have the same units. I think that's exactly what this unit is, too. Okay. We're winding down here. We got 3 more items, and I'll just show it to you. I don't know that it needs a whole lot of talk, but yeah, of course. I had to go with the G90. It sounds good. It's inexpensive. It's too big, kind of, for this kit, but it works, and I know how to use it pretty well. I can do digital with it. Digital's even easier with that Digi Rig. It makes it a cinch. I had this up and running you know, in a couple of minutes on the Digi Rig, and then easily with the Raspberry Pi, about the same amount of time, except this is slower. The fan caddy is kind of important if you're going to do digital. This is the old finger chopper version. They have a new version that won't chop your fingers. I think you kind of have to run this if you're going to do power, particularly on digital. You can probably get away for 5 watts, I'm guessing, digital, and you're going to be fine. You won't need the fan, but there you go. Okay. Do I need to say more about the G90? Would anyone like to hear more reasons why I went with G90? It's inexpensive, $450. It's pretty solid. It's been super reliable so long as you got a fan on it, from my point of view. So, hopefully I don't need to say a lot about that. Okay, last 2 items. This might be you might this might not be of any value to you guys, but I included a Kindle. This is a Kindle Oasis, which is a waterproof Kindle. I have gone in and transposed all my radio manuals that are on my laptops and my Raspberry Pis, which I mentioned earlier. I include documentation on all of my radio devices, even the ones I go POTA with, as much as I can. I copied them over to this Kindle. Now, it's a bit of a premium because it's kind of wide, but the battery lasts forever. It takes very little time to charge. And hypothetically, if I'm doing things right, I won't really be using this. As much as I think it's functional and capable, it uses too much battery power. It just sucks too much battery. This is a lot easier to run power, and so is the Raspberry Pi. Now, they don't interface. You can't interface them together, but you can let this guy run, collect messages, and only periodically check in with your laptop. And so that was kind of the idea. So a bit of a layered approach there. All right, question. Question from Don. Where's the 1 kilowatt amp? Hey, I don't know. If we had an EMP and we had actual damage, like if we took stuff out, I don't think we'd be worrying about power much at all. I think we'd be happily running, 20 watts in a wire to save that power. By the way, going back to, talking about power output, and I'll probably go face on for this one. I got to show you the last item first, though. But we got to talk about that 100 watts, those 100 watt radios that you may think to bug out with. Where's my last item? Where'd I put it? There it is. Gotta start this one up off camera. The one thing I didn't have in the first iteration was a nuclear radiation Geiger counter / dosimeter. And that is what this is. This is the GQ GMC 500, which is not cheap, but almost kind of the Baofeng of Geiger counters. It is a nice little unit. It's actually Wi-Fi enabled and will post relative signal reports or sensor reports to the internet that will be logged on gmcmap.com, among other maps. And so you can see people with these units showing you what relative background radiation is. I love this little unit. I'll pull it up on the web here in a second so you guys can take a look at it. But yeah, it's super cool. It can mount on the wall, and in fact, if you hold it vertically, come on, there you go. It'll actually rotate to a vertical orientation. So depending on how you have it oriented, it'll switch around. Let's see if it does it. Anyway, doesn't really matter. You get the idea. So you can do a whole bunch of stuff. Yeah, right. Where's better question? W9ZK, better question. Where's the 100 watt tower and stacked beams? Shake my head. Well, you could still interface. I mean, if you could still interface all those antennas, absolutely. Why not? I'm just not gonna be able to fit that in my trash can. Question: are solar panels vulnerable to EP? Somebody, so I got my first video went ham radio viral, I guess, or prepper viral. And a bunch of people made blog posts about it, and they're like, solar panels aren't going to get damaged in a EMP, blah blah blah. A lot of people commented on my first. They got too hyper focused. They got too hyper focused that only things that could be damaged by EMPs be in the trash can, or the opposite end, they wanted a whole kit in the trash can, which then that would reduce your capability to put electronics in. So no, if your radio, which is sensitive to EMP, is in the can, and you don't have a power source for it, and a way to keep it sustainably running for a long period of time, it needs to go in the can. So a solar panel would definitely go in the can because why? Because you need it if you want to sustain the battery charge. So no, they're not really damageable by EP. I don't know how fine the traces are between anything, so that I don't know if they become energized. I don't know, and I don't want to assume. I don't care. But I do know that I want at least a little bit of a solar panel that can go in the can so that if something were to happen, I would at least have something small. In the field, could we collect a 100-watt panel and, you know, from somebody's roof or from my own collection and get it up and running? Absolutely. But if I needed to grab that can and go, I absolutely want everything to function in there as I'm going. So let me grab the radio that some of you thought might be in it because it's probably on the thumbnail. It's a little bit of a prepper bait. I appreciate. Hold on. So some of you are like, I was promised an 857. Where's that 857? Show me that 857. So yes, I did include the 857 on the thumbnail because it was actually on the table when I was making the thumbnail image. This would not go in my EMP kit. It draws too much power. It's like one plus amps on draw, close to 2 amps on receive. Not even transmit. Great radio. Well, okay, take that back. An older radio, a capable, functional radio, not the most sensitive radio, but yeah, I don't know what else to say. It draws too much power. Most of the 100-watt radios do. They just draw too much power, so that's why they wouldn't go in my kit. Period. More questions. Hey, James, good question. Would your truck box, like your truck toolbox, like on the back bed, work for an EMP-proof kit? Kind of, sort of, probably not. Let me explain why. So the connection, where's that lid? Let me go back to hold on one second. Let me show you the lid. So this material here, this mesh, it's like weather stripping that's been wrapped in a fine metal mesh. This is what's going to push the lid. It's going to make electrical connection from the lid, seal all the cracks to the body of the can. This stuff, right? It doesn't have a crazy useful long life of being pressed and depressed and twisted and rotated and pressed and depressed and twisted and rotated. It's not really designed to do that, right? You're kind of it's for something where you seal the lid, maybe open it a couple of times a year, and then that's it. It's not meant to be opened up multiple times a day like a truck toolbox would be. So I don't think so. In fact, they would deteriorate pretty quickly because, again, what you're trying to achieve here, for those, I don't have my iPad set up to do this, and we're already running a little late or towards the end of the show here. What you're trying to achieve is an eggshell of impenetrable electrical protection. That's what you're trying to achieve. If you took all your electronics and put it into a perfectly round sphere of metal, right? That is a Faraday cage, right? That's what you're trying to achieve here. That doesn't make much sense to weld your gear into a big sphere every time you needed to prepare for something, right? So what do? Well, we use metal containers, and we use electrical sealing, either of, we use butyl tape or metal tape on all the open exposed hinge areas, hinge points, opening points. Try to seal that all off as best as possible. And those are always the weak spots in any kind of EMP protection setup, is where is the gaps, the little holes in your setup. Don, N5SKT, thanks for your questions earlier today. Don, my biggest question is, where would I get insulin in one of these events? Radio would be the least of my worries. Prescription medicine is the least discussed issue. So, hey, Don, I was thinking about this, actually, and we could talk about it on the after chat. By the way, join us on the after chat. I wonder if, so obviously insulin is not something that needs to be in an EMP protection case. It's not nanobugs or anything. I wonder if you could build yourself a Peltier system. Peltiers are largely not, I would assume, would not be affected by EMP, I'm guessing. And you can get Peltier systems pretty low as far as temperature goes. And so what my thought was, once upon a time I got one of those little, refrigerators that plug in with the 12-volt lighter plug on a car, and it maybe holds like a 6-pack of cans. That uses a fan system, but I wasn't positive if it was or was not a Peltier system. And I bet if you did some work with it, you could actually get the temperature to go down further to the point that you'd actually be able to sustain a colder temperature. And a Peltier system would do that, I think. I think it would. Oh, I see Don's problem. Okay. So Don's saying Peltiers are only for storing. You can't get more than 3 months from a doctor. Well, maybe you need to start there. Maybe get as much as you can on hand, keep it cold, and then work the angles on the long-term storage. Yeah. I'm thinking that would be the only way to go. You'd at least have the capability, because then you'd have a 12-volt system. You'd have to have another thing that goes along with your EMP trash can that would be there for supporting your insulin. It'd be possible. You could do it. Any other questions? Because we're going to wrap things up and we're going to head on over to the Discord. I'm likely going to be giving away a GP7. CountyCom actually, they sent me another box of stuff, and it had like a full accoutrement of, or not accoutrement of GP7 accessories. So I think I'm just gonna get one and give it away. So I'm probably gonna be posting a web form that you can join in on the giveaway, because I think there's a couple other radios coming out, and obviously we have Dayton coming up. So I may do that for the live stream for Dayton. So yeah, make sure you're also following me for Dayton Hamvention, because we're gonna be live from there hanging out with the crew. Christiana, thank you for the super chat. Question: if you use metal tape in the can and cover tape over the edge of the can, will that help? Yes, that will. So some folks do that for ammo cans. They'll take an ammo can, seal it all up nice and tight, and then they'll wrap it with metallic tape. TX Fisher. Oh, good question. Did I actually overview the actual pace plan? So, no, good question, good point, you got me. No, forgot to hit some of those points. So, basically what this is consisting of, in fact, we're still on the overhead, so I can show you. Let me slide over. All right, so you have VHF, UHF, ham, FM. I'm assuming, oh, you need the microphone for this bit. There you go. You got VHF, UHF, ham radio, line of sight stuff. This is actually a tri-bander, so there is your primary. Because again, no cell phones. No cell phones, I don't think. Primary. You could interoperate, wrong one. Boop. Interoperate with GMRS, which I think is likely going to be in use as well. This is the UV5X, although hypothetically, your Baofangs can do GMRS, and FRS as well. This is layer 2, call it, maybe. You could have another radio connected to your repeater system that extends your capability, gives you ham mailbox type technology capabilities. And then you have your HF with the G90, which again, I'm assuming most of this is voice. I don't think we're going to be doing encrypted stuff. I don't think we're going to be doing anything. We'll likely also be monitoring AM radio for whatever happens out there. And as always, don't just drag all this stuff out on the table and says it's go time. No, you're probably going to use your little cheapy boys here. You're going to use your little cheapy radios to listen to the emergency broadcasts. Let those get potentially fried, because there are thoughts that if there's one EMP blast, there's going to be multiple EMP blasts. So it's better to blow up your cheap electronics, maybe have a couple of these in there as canaries, and also potentially a last-ditch possible when the grid comes back, or if it never really went out, you can use a burner phone. So there's your pace plan, if you will. Now, there's other videos I've done on family comms planning, which this would just fall in line with that. This would be based off of frequencies that you selected for your family. This would be interoperating with emergency nets. If you are, by the way, guys, here's a really good point for everybody who likes to say, I've got all this radio gear, I'm ready for an emergency, you know, et cetera, et cetera. A lot of the emergency preparedness that you hear talk about on channels on YouTube is filling in some of the gaps that you have to have some people that are willing to work this with you, that you are going to have local communities via Aries, Racies, your local ham club. They're going to have their own comms plans, and they're not necessarily going to be universal across the country. Heck, not even across the county necessarily. So you can't just like one man it, like I've got all this stuff on the table. It's like, and now I'm ready. Well, no, you got to figure out who's going to talk on what frequencies and when. Now, a good ham will likely just be able to figure out what frequencies people are on if you scan long enough. So I could drag all these radios out, start scanning, and go, hey, there's where people are talking. Let me write down that frequency. Yeah, probably. That's probably fine. If you want to avoid that, though, then get active with your local community. That's the best way to do it. Get active on Aries, Racies. Consider looking up what the emergency frequency nets are for hurricane net. If you do live in areas where there are hurricanes and tornadoes, be a really good time to do all of that. So I hope that would fit the bill. Ham radio for non-techies. I am surprised you didn't consider the Sea Crane Sky. Oh, I considered it, but if you go back, now I'm gonna go back. I gotta go back because I got a lot of comments like these on the last video. Yes, I do leave the G90 and most of the gear in the can. The reason the Sea Crane Skywave is in there is because I use that radio. I really like using it. I enjoy it. It's really handy. It does like all the things, but it's $175 and I'm not going to buy two of them. And I don't want it to live in a trash can. I want it to live with meat, Also, the Kenwood can receive airband and do weather, and so can the Baofeng. So I'm not really missing anything by going with the Skywave. There's some redundancy built in there, so I don't necessarily need it as a one-stop shop. Good question, but yeah, that's why. Yeah, because again, this isn't my high-speed, low-drag stuff, guys. As I talked about on the podcast, this is my oh crap, this really happened. What do we do now? What is the comfortable level of capability I can roll out and still have it be self-sustainable? By the way, I'll update the link in the description for the GMC 500. It's actually pretty cool. I did spend some time on YouTube watching Geiger counter videos. What an interesting hole that is of YouTube. I was fascinated. There are a bunch of, they call them like Pripyat. Oh, Pripyat's one of the brands. They call them like Chernobyl detectors. And they're still in use. They're still available today. You can buy them on eBay. They're really cool. Not as effective as something like this, but also really interesting to have a little moment here. So I guess this has a glass vial sensor. That's its radioactive element that it uses for sensing. That's not necessarily preferred. A lot of the Russians use metal cylinders for sensing radioactive material. And I found that interesting that this is kind of not the best. It's not as durable, but it's got a ton of functionality in it. So who knows? Who knows? I'm putting my whole life on a glass vial. Me and my family's life. Let's see. Tan Hat. I'm still a bit confused about the differences between the Buddy Pull Power Mini 1 and Power Mini 2. Can the Power Mini 1 effectively charge the LiFePo 4 battery? What made you decide you needed to upgrade? Oh, great question. Okay. The Power Mini 1 versus the 2, okay? They both charge DC batteries. They both charge the LiFePo batteries without any issue. The update, and you can go check the website on this, the update for the Power Mini 2 is that it puts out more amps on the USB port. That's it. It puts out more amps on the USB port. So you hypothetically can connect newer laptops. The problem with the power output as it is right now is it won't kick up the amps to the point that USB-C devices need to charge. So the Power Mini 1 will not run a Microsoft Surface Go. It will not run, it mostly won't run my GPD Pocket 2. So that's the downside of the Power Mini. Keep in mind, 2 meters. Let's see. Keep in mind, 2 meters is water is all you need to reduce nuclear fuel rod's emission to almost background. Sure. Okay. I'm not a radiation guy, but I watched some TikToks on it. Anyway, guys, I think we're going to wrap it up. This was a Patron Picks episode. So I want to say a big thank you to the patrons. Thank you for having me share my updated kit. I did spend some time updating it over the last month or so, with the finishing touches being... the Simplex Repeater is what I bought recently. I feel like that's a bit more useful than APRS in this case. Now, I could still fit the APRS device in there as well. Totally. I have no problem being able to fit that in. The Mobi Linked also runs off of USB micro, so you'll have no problem fitting that in as well. And then likely I don't use it often enough that it can't just live in there. Sure, why not? I really would hope that you guys consider joining us on the after chat if you have ham radio questions. Hey, that's what it's all about. We would love to have you over there. Hey, thanks to everybody for who sent a super chat as well. That is always appreciated. Thank you so much for supporting the channel. And yeah, great idea, patrons. This was something that I think somebody recommended a couple of months ago, and it took a little while to get voted in, but it did. The patrons have spoken, and I hope this has been a fun episode. If you've waited this long and you're watching it after the fact, give me your thoughts in the comments below. I'd love to hear your thoughts on how you might be outfitting your tactical trash can, or why I'm a crazy person. I figured, hey, if you're going to have a Go box or whatever, you might as well also make it EMP resistant. So those are my thoughts. All right, everybody. Thank you. Appreciate everybody watching. If you are so inclined, I will be over on Twitch, Ham Radio Crash Course, for the after chat. If you don't want to join us on Discord, that's okay, but you still want to hear everybody talk and listen to the fun, go ahead and join me over on Twitch, Ham Radio Crash Course. All right, I will play you out with the memes. 73. Listen to the sweet, sweet sound of Geiger counter. Why you no click? There it is, yeah. All right, take it easy, everybody.